IRA. In studio we have Tim Farkas, who's Structured Finance Manager for Ameresco. First segment we were talking a little bit about performance contracting and how it is a financial vehicle for infrastructure improvements for predominantly municipalities. So we're going to segue over into something called PACE. Tim, could you tell our listeners a little bit about PACE? What does PACE even mean?
Yeah, Paul, PACE is a financing tool for commercial and potentially, eventually, residential customers. PACE is an acronym. It stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. And the concept is probably familiar to a lot of your viewers. A lot of our homes here in Las Vegas have tax increment districts or special improvement districts, where if you live in a master plan community, you have a park or some common area, landscaping, curbs and gutters.
Referred to as SIDs and LIDs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And so your house has a certain portion of those costs, those common area costs, attached to it, and that lien is attached to the property. So if you sell the property, the lien goes with it to the new owner, right? Those common area improvements are going to stay. You can't take them with you. So it makes sense that the improvements, or that the lien rather, and the debt service for that lien stay with the property. And so that's a key aspect to this type of financing, is that in the past, or up to now, before PACE, the only solution for an energy project is, or has been, to take out a brand new loan. If you're a commercial entity and you want a brand new loan, that means you got to show up with 3 to 5 years audited financials. You go through a full underwriting process, and a lot of commercial entities don't want to go through that for these types of improvements, because they may have, and this is very common, they may have direction from the owner or direction from their board that they're not allowed to do anything that doesn't pay for itself in 3 to 5 years. Some customers here in Las Vegas, we've had them tell us they're not allowed to invest in anything that pays for itself in greater than 18 months. So that giving them a time horizon, because if they're going to sell their property, they're going to, if the commercial entity ever wants to move, they might have to sell their property. That lien now stays with the property and goes to a new owner. The debt service in a PACE loan has been described by accounting firms, major accounting firms, and I'm not an accountant, as off balance sheet. So the combination of having the lien be attached to the property, not to the business, and it being described as off balance sheet by major accounting firms, that's a game changer, right? Those two things alone make PACE the best financing solution for energy improvements that there is, because energy improvements are upfront investment repaid incrementally over time through the savings, and you need at least 5 to 7 years to pay for even a lighting improvement in a lot of cases. LED lights are great, they're very efficient, but sometimes those LED solutions are quite a bit more expensive. And so sometimes you need at least 5 or 7 years for certain, especially outdoor lighting solutions. When you get into solar, we of course here in Nevada have one of the greatest solar resources in the country, which makes it an excellent solar resource. We don't need a lot of incentives. We really don't need any incentives for a project to pay for itself in probably 12, 15, 20 years, depending on if you have a ground mount solution or a rooftop, or you want to do covered parking. The payback varies, obviously with the cost of the installation. So PACE gives you the ability to enter into 10 to 20 year financing terms in a way that doesn't impact your balance sheet, doesn't impact your ability to move and be flexible and nimble as companies want to be. And so it really is a game changer.
So I hear you saying that PACE would allow a commercial and or residential entity project that would have gone by the wayside in the past because of financing issues. But now you're bringing a financial vehicle to the table that's going to allow those to go forward. So who does benefit by PACE?
PACE will benefit the property owner who does the improvement. It'll benefit their neighbors because the property values will typically go up when you improve your property more. It'll benefit the local economy by creating a lot more jobs. So there's a bill in the legislature, AB 5, and in that bill it requires that Nevada contractors be used for this work. So this will not be a process or a financing tool that will encourage a bunch of out-of-state companies to bring workers in from out of state. That will not be part of the solution. So it should drive economic vitality, diversification, which we talk about economic diversification here in Nevada like crazy, but how many things actually deliver it when you have a giant economic entity like gaming here in the state? But this really could drive thousands of jobs. And those efficiency dollars, we actually paid for a local economist, John Restrepo, to analyze this, and he came up with the fact that every dollar saved in an energy improvement project has a multiplying effect of about 2 times. So every dollar's worth $2 in the ripple effects throughout the economy when you spend that money on energy efficiency and renewable energy.
So the dollar velocity is 2 or more.
Yeah, and sometimes you hear those numbers, people describe this and they say there's $6 or $7, but those types of estimates I don't ever believe. This was a very rigorous analysis done by a real economist.
Well, we've talked about AB 5 in the past on the show, and does it include residential and commercial, or is one of them dropped out?
Residential has dropped out.
Okay, so this go around, then legislation is focusing on getting PACE passed for commercial entities. So any casino or a convenience store, who specifically might want to take a look at this and use it?
Yeah, it's the only exclusion is residential with units less than 5, in buildings with units less than 5 units. That's currently the amendment that's proposed and has been accepted, I think, by the Governor's Office of Energy. But we haven't gotten to a hearing yet. That hasn't been completely fleshed out, and that amendment hasn't been adopted yet.
So then potentially a condominium, that kind of thing, could use it, but
yes.
Single-family residents are probably going to drop off.
Yeah.
Till next session, hopefully.
Till next session. So nationally, this is not a new concept. There are several markets where PACE is robust. It's happening like crazy. In about the 10-year history of PACE, there have been $3.3 billion worth of work done around the country. The vast majority of that, almost $3 billion, has been done in one residential program in California, the HERO program. But the commercial side of it is becoming more and more serious. And the exciting thing about why that's becoming more serious is that finally, in the last two and a half years in the 10-year history, PACE is now a standalone financing solution. So what I mean by that is, initially when PACE came around, the financings were issued as bonds by the local government, and they were backed by the local government. So the city of Berkeley issued a bond backed by the city of Berkeley. So if the payments didn't show up from the property owners, the city of Berkeley was on the hook. This bill, AB 5, does not allow our local governments to back these financings. It is explicitly prohibited. So that's an important distinction here.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about how this financing works when we come back. And let's go hear from our sponsors for a minute. We'll be right back to Shades of Green on KDWN.